Hello everyone from the Novedge team. Welcome to today's webinar, Introduction to V-Ray for Cinema4D. Introducing V-Ray for Cinema4D. Check out its quality images with no settings, the brand new improved materials and shaders, the new built-in special effects, the accurate lights and improved GI, and the blazing fast rendering speed. Today's webinar presenter, Fabio Palvelli, is an architect and engineer and has worked in the field of digital design since graduation. He works as a university tutor in Austria and as a technical consultant all over Europe. He is the co-founder of the D2 conference, the most important conference in the world about architectural visualization, and he freelances for V-Ray for Cinema4D in Vienna. But before we get going, here's an overview of what we do at Novedge. Novedge is one of the largest online stores for design software. We offer a huge assortment of software solutions that cater to virtually every designer's need. So come on over and visit Novedge at novedge.com and feel free to look around all our huge catalog. And for more daily software news and limited time promotions, also pay a visit to the Novedge blog and follow us on Facebook, Google+, or Twitter. Coming up next week, immersive visualization and virtual reality with Autodesk. And last but not least, today's webinar is free and is being recorded. So if you want to rewatch this or any webinar episodes in our collection, just head on over to Novedge's YouTube or Vimeo channel. And now I'm gonna make you the presenter, Fabio. Just say yes when you're prompted to share your screen, and the stage is all yours. Excellent.
I think I'm on. Okay. So first of all, before we continue, I just want to redo this little disclaimer because I saw a couple of people coming in. We had some technical issues, so I had to restart my computer. I had my files open in the order that I wanted to show them. So bear with me if I'm going to jump around a little bit. It's just that, you know, I had everything ready and then we had to shut down the computer because I could not hear the audio. But that's not a problem. This is something that I do very often on behalf of V-Ray for Cinema4D. For those of you who don't know, you can also find some of our tutorials on our V-Ray page. Give it a minute. So if you go to Learn V-Ray, you'll find a lot of stuff that I've done myself specifically on how to get you started with V-Ray for C4D, the version 3.4. Now, bear in mind that the presentation that I put together for you guys, we're going to keep it very simple, open here, was done before the release of 3.5. 3.5 got released at the beginning of this week. So some of the things that I'm going to show you in the presentation are already available. If you are a 3.5 at the moment is still in test phase. If you buy 3.4, you have automatically access to 3.5, and you can already start working with it and with all the features that we have included. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I would like personally to collect all the questions at the end of the webinar if possible, and then I'm going to answer them at the end. If something is really not clear or you really want to know something, feel free, to interrupt, and we'll try to do our best to feed you information. So as I said, as Barbara already said, my name is Fabio Palvelli. I am based in Vienna, although I am Italian. I want to do a very little introduction about LaubLab. This is a design and technology company founded in Vienna by Stefan and Sabine Laub. They focus on the development of high-end C4D plugins. One of the most famous is probably Rhino IO, or the UV spline mapper, AutoCAD to C4D. We also create high-end assets for the 3D industry. We do a lot of teaching activities all over the world, both online and in person. If you require physical workshops, bear in mind that we are very, very busy and very booked. So if you think about it, give us let us know, because we need a lot of time to put them together, also because of the traveling and so on. And also, we are, of course, the developers of V-Ray for C4D. What we do personally is the implementation of the software, which is based on the V-Ray Chaos Group technology. And we are responsible basically for that part. Now, let's take a look, first of all, at the news and the new things that you get with 3.5. We have implemented this new simple usage with new full automatic sampling. It sounds very complicated, but it's not. It basically means that making an image, it's now just a question of clicking one button. We have a faster algorithm that allows you to calculate light, and it's optimized for the lights that basically are shown in your viewport. Again, I'm going to show you some examples, so don't worry too much about the naming and the writing. We have new global illumination accurate lights. Now, it is important to make this, to underline this, because basically so far, one of the issues that we were having with users was the users were not happy with the normal standard lights that we were including in V-Ray. Now, this is an image that I have created just by using Photoshop brushes and Photoshop materials and using standard lights from V-Ray. The quality of the light is extremely good, and at the moment, most of my images I render without even using HDRIs or sun, but just using normal square lights, because they're more flexible. They can help me, how do you want to say, influencing the mood and the light in a much more controlled way. We have physical layered BRDFs materials, but we have been able to include also the standard 3ds Max materials. Now, in the last few months, we have had a very large group of 3ds Max users migrating to Cinema4D. Most of these users were using V-Ray as a rendering engine, so they wanted to have a more seamless integration and workflow between the two softwares. And these new materials are very much like the ones from 3ds Max, but I'm going to show you both, and they're extremely easy to use and implement. And some of them actually work much better because they're much more faithful to the base core of V-Ray, which is a program that was designed for 3ds Max. We support also native V-Ray shaders, like for instance, you know, the new tree planner shader, or a lot of other shaders that I'm going to show you, which are a lot of fun to use, and they will improve your workflow a lot. The tree planner is one of my favorite one. So it's basically a shader that maps onto objects basing itself on a three-plane coordinate system. As you can see here, this is a round object, for instance, that was mapped using this three-planar projection, and I have no unwrapping done on this model. So this makes things like organic modeling and organic rendering a lot faster. We have brand new material randomizations, as well as proxies and instancings with shaders, which allow you to render huge scenes. I think that this scene was about 9 million objects with billions of polygons. We now have the possibility to export everything through V-Ray proxies, and these V-Ray proxies are also compatible with, say, Maya, 3ds Max, and can be rendered in other software. And in theory, we can also render animations from other softwares. We have new Skype modes, as well as aerial perspective fog. These are very quick effects that you can just simply implement into your design. They don't require a lot of render time, and the effect is actually really cool. V-Ray now supports full Maxon Air for fur and spline, and it's great also for things like grass if you're working in the field of architectural visualization. We also support AL shaders for the skin and hair. These are these Anders Landgrens shaders that were originally scripted, I think, to work on Arnold, but then we have been able to implement also in V-Ray for C4D. We have this fantastic new feature which is called the V-Ray Clipper, which is a real-time Boolean operator that allows you to cut sections through your model. Now, a cool thing about this clipper is that it works also with very complex geometries. This, for instance, was imported from Rhino, just dropped into Cinema4D, and a section was cut through. So this allows you to speed up a lot your workflow because you don't have to do any any destructive transformation inside of Cinema4D. We have a new V-Ray frame buffer, which allows you to add some special effects to your rendering, like bloom and glare, for instance. We have a deep integration with VR. At the moment, you can navigate already your scene if you have VR goggles inside of the V-Ray camera. We have new extended render elements and ID passes, which have been improved since the last version, which allow you, of course, for a much higher control of your scene. What else? We have been able to implement these MDL and OSL materials, which basically allow you to exchange materials cross-platform like from any other software that support the same type of material. And we have, of course, as always, full unlimited C4D command line and team rendering supported, as well as V-Ray DR. Okay, this is actually, I should have edited away because, as I was saying, we have already released V-Ray 3.5. So I would say that's enough of the talking. Let's just jump into the presentation. Just give me a second because here it's turning night. It's almost 8:20. I just need to switch on the light very quickly. Much better. Okay, so let's just start V-Ray. Now, one of the comments that we still get online is that, V-Ray is so complicated and that's why people have decided to switch platforms, that it's difficult to switch on, tune and have perfect renders. Now, one thing that I want to show you, and you have to believe me on this, this is how V-Ray works. The new version of V-Ray, it's literally this. You go to the render settings, change from standard to V-Ray bridge, and then in indirect illumination, you have to switch on the GI. Now, these you can leave it off if you're testing, for instance, a couple of simple things. But basically, if you say GI on, V-Ray is now fully functioning. Brute force light cache, this algorithm works all the time. If you know what you're doing, if you know how light and materials work, then V-Ray with these settings will work 100% of the time. This is as simple as it is, and I want to show it to you live. So let me just drop a sphere. Then let me create a very quick cube. This cube will be our limbo, so to say. There we go. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. And let's try to render this sphere. Now, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to define the view that I want to render. We're going to keep it simple. That's all I want. Let's make a camera. At the moment, V-Ray allows you from its drop-down menu to go directly to the camera tab, click on V-Ray physical camera, and now you have a V-Ray camera that it's already tuned for the rendering itself. What else do we need? We need a light, okay? To make a rendering, we are going to need a light. Beforehand, if you wanted to create a sun, you had to go through the process of creating the light, then putting a target, setting the tab, the V-Ray tag, change the settings of the tag itself. At the moment, we can simply go to V-Ray for C4D, go to lights, V-Ray, physical, sun, and sky. Everything it's already set for you. The light is there, it's looking in that direction. Maybe I'm just gonna change the position, put it from that side. I'm gonna go back to my view and I'm going to render it. Now, the reason why I'm rendering it without putting any materials is because I wanna make a couple of remarks about what we see when we render something like this. When we render without applying any material, the model will be automatically considered white. And white by itself is the product of light hitting a white surface. That means that if we actually want to make this object white, our material itself won't have to be 100% white, okay? In this case, we have 100% white, the brightness is at 80%. Let's lower this to 80 as well. And let's drop this simple material and re-render. So we can make a very quick comparison. So now, as you can see, here we have a situation where we have an area which is too bright. In the second rendering, this is fixed. Now, I haven't changed any of the settings from the camera. I haven't changed any of the settings from the light. I've only used the right type of white material because white looks white only when the light hits it. This is called, in technical terms, the albedo of a color. It's something that people should know. And very often what we have realized is that users, because of misinformation that it's vastly available on the internet, they tend to do things the wrong way, okay? This is just to let you understand that, you know, I'm not doing anything with the renderings, with the render settings, with the cameras, with the lights. I'm just simply tuning the material so that they respond in a physical way to what we have in our viewport. Now, let's get rid of the sun because with the sun it's too easy actually. And let's create a studio setup for ourselves. So I'm just gonna go again from to V-Ray Bridge, Lights, and I'm gonna drop a V-Ray rectangular light. I'm gonna change my display mode to quick shading lines. I'm gonna rotate these about 90 degrees, maybe make it a little bit bigger. And I'm gonna make a copy on the other side. There we go, I'm gonna go back to my camera. Now, as you can see here, all the settings are already set for us. The light is visible at the moment because realistically speaking, the light would be visible, but we can actually go and change it, but one step at a time. Let's first of all render this image. Okay, as we can see, I don't know if the screen lets that going through, but we see the light, we see the geometry. Of course, the only thing is that the light is too low. Now, believe it or not, I need to make these remarks because very often people don't understand that, you know, if you're working with a rendering engine, you're really working like with elements that you find in real life. So a light, just like this one, needs to be tuned for the settings of the camera that you have. So in this case, let's just select both lights, go to our common panel, click on default image, and change this to radiant power. Then we can start tune the intensity of the light itself. Let's re-render. we start to see something. So maybe we can crank this up a little bit. Very good, so we start to see something. Now, all the controllers that we need for our lights are basically in the tag that are given by V-Ray for C4D. It is very important that we always work with either shaders or tags that come specifically from V-Ray for C4D, because then V-Ray will be able to understand them 100%. We still have some clients that want to use V-Ray, Cinema4D shaders without understanding that the color management in V-Ray it's slightly different and needs to be done the proper way other than the normal traditional way. Okay, so this is just to give you a very quick understanding of how easy it is to render in Cinema4D, V-Ray for Cinema4D. Now, the thing is that all the scenes that I'm going to show you from now on are going to be rendered with the same exact settings, okay? So first of all, I want to open a scene. Give me a second. So projects, probabilistic light, there we go. So now this is a scene that I've created. It's a very simple scene. It's basically just a bunch of cubes scattered with a lot of lights which are looking on top of these cubes. Now, in theory, what V-Ray used to do beforehand used to calculate randomly samples of light coming from each single panel, okay? This would be, of course, optimized because it would be a randomization of the light sample. But what we have now done, we have now implemented this new probabilistic light, which basically relies a lot on the I think on the GI pass, meaning that the lights that we are going to calculate are the ones that influence our viewport the most. What does that mean in easier words? If we go to the main options, we have the possibility to switch from the full evaluation, for instance, which is the old method. We can render and maybe see quickly what's the difference in terms of time. This is still relatively an easy scene to render. And usually when I make a video, what I do, I stop these the recording and then I show you just the time at the end. But basically this image with the settings gets to a full clean render in about 7 to 8 minutes. So at the moment I'm stopping at 42, you can see 42 seconds, there is a lot of noise. If I now were to change the full evaluation to the adaptive lights and re-render this, first of all, you see that the image appears a lot faster. Yeah, we're only 10 seconds in. And this renders, I think, clean to about 3 minutes. So basically in, say, good optimal conditions, we have been able to improve the speed up to 5 times. When using old scenes, as you can see, we're already nearing the a clean image. It's a lot cleaner than the one from before, and we are already okay. We were 30 seconds in, but you see the difference, yeah. So it has got a lot faster, and these you'll see the difference, especially if you're working on scenes which have huge amounts of lights. I don't know, how are we doing time-wise? Barbara, if
Fabio,
you're there.
Yes, I'm here. We're doing good. You have another, 30 minutes, so.
Okay. I just want to know because I want to show you the cool stuff. Okay, let's make a brand new scene. I'm gonna close this one. No, I'm gonna open a brand new one. There we go. Okay, so now this is another peculiar scene that I'm personally very proud of, because we have been able, with the new shaders from V-Ray, to create all the materials without having to use any pictures from the internet. So we were basically painting the textures ourselves using some of the new shaders from V-Ray. And I can show you some of the of these shaders in action. Also, there is no any type of natural light, HDRI or sunlight here. It's only square lights. I could actually, hold on, let me change the resolution. Let's make it a little bit smaller. And let's change, of course, these to adaptive lights. The settings are still the base settings. I didn't change anything. So you see this works also very well on things like enclosed spaces, because very often one of the questions that we had from artists is, how do you improve the quality of light when working in completely sealed scenes? So, you know, how do you make the interior of an hospital and make them look super realistic? The lights that we have now implemented in this version of V-Ray, I don't know why and how they do it, because I'm not a developer myself, but they simply look better. Now, from this model, one thing that I want to show you is that by implementing things like motion blur and so on, we've been able to even implement things like, you know, people moving without having to go to Photoshop. So basically, at the moment, for all our clients, our workflow, it's 99% 3D based, and we do very little in Photoshop, only if we have to correct small mistakes or say do minor color adjustments. Now, from this file, I'm going to actually, you know, since it's very simple, let's go back to our scene that we have here. Let's take both lights, let's delete them. I'm going to drop a dome light, which is one of my favorite lights from V-Ray. It actually looks so much better when you're in an open space, because you get all the reflections. So let's put spherical dome, use texture. Now, one thing that we have realized a lot of our users were doing, they were simply dropping an image without going through a V-Ray advanced bitmap. And this doesn't allow you the control of the bitmap itself once you are inside of V-Ray. So one thing that you should do once you decide to start working with V-Ray is to always rely on advanced bitmaps. Let me just click on the advanced bitmap. Let me click on this little blue image, and I'll go and grab an HDRI. I'm going to use one of our Vis people. I don't want to save it. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create let's create some sort of like BRDF layered material, so that you can take a look and see how cool it is to use different type of bitmaps, one on top of the other, to create some sort of like depth in the material itself. So if I now go and render this image, it takes a little bit longer because the HDRI is very large and needs to be loaded. Okay, in this case, what I could do, I could change a little bit the settings of the camera, assuming that the exposure of the light is correct. So I'm just gonna change this to 100 and maybe make my ISO a little bit more sensitive. And let's also open up a little bit our lens. This should do. Great, perfect. So now what I want to do, I want to go and create a material which is a little bit more complex than this one. Let's make a metal. This is a question that a lot of people ask us. How do you make a proper metal? Let's make a chrome. So to make a chrome, what I'm going to do, I'm going to, first of all, turn the diffuse layer completely to black. And I'm going to switch on the specular layer and change the Fresnel to a value of 22. Also, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the type of specular layer to microfacet GTR. This works a little bit better. This is black. Okay, good. And then I'm going to make the reflection glossiness itself something like 75%. Now, let's just drag and drop these onto our sphere and let's render it. I'm also going to change a little bit the output so that it's going to be slightly faster. Good, so we have our chrome. Now maybe the problem is that we don't have much of the environment to reflect, so probably one thing that we could do is to, let's take a look. Maybe one thing that we could do, we could, in theory, exchange this with a bigger sphere, UL, maybe grab the sphere, scale it a little bit, go back to our view, and we'll give it a just a simple material for reflections. Let's see, we're freestyling a little bit here. So let's go back. Let's get some studios. These are from Grayscale Gorilla. So it's just basically a picture to create some reflections. It's loading at the moment. My server is a little bit slow. Today, everything is trying to work against us, Barbara.
Oh, don't worry, it's going great. This webinar is very exciting. Maybe I'm biased
I'm
because
glad
I'm
to hear
Italian, but I mean, I'm really enjoying this, Fabio.
I'm glad to hear that. So let's just change a little bit the mapping to spherical. We don't even have to see this. So V-ray compositing, visible to camera. There we go. And I'm gonna go back to our view. So hopefully we should have some reflections at the moment. Let's take a look. Good, a little bit better. Great, so I'm just gonna also maybe, let's add an infinite plane. There we go. So now for sure we will see everything. Great, so I'll take this. Now, what we are going to do, first of all, I'm going to go to the light and say I want to have it invisible. Let's add a little bit of variation on this, the surface of this metal. Now, at the moment, I have a Oh, sorry, that was my problem. I changed the wrong layer. You see, if you don't pay enough attention, I turned the diffuse color, instead of the diffuse color, I turned the transparency. It's my mistake. I apologize. Let's re-render. This shall look a little bit better. Basically, a material, it's completely, a metal material, it's completely black, the body of the material itself, because in theory, it doesn't reflect any of the light, but it absorbs it all. Great. So now it looks spot on. One thing that we are going to do at the moment, we are going to go to the texture for the reflection glossiness tab. We are going to drop an advanced bitmap. And we are going to look for a grunge texture. Where is my favorite grunge texture? There we go. And we are going to mix these something like 12% with this material. Let's re-render. And just by doing this, I don't know if the resolution of the stream allows it, but you see a lot of micro scratches and imperfections on the surface of this material that kind of add a little bit to the realism of the material itself. Is it visible, guys? Barbara, do you see anything on your screen?
Yeah, no, it's...
Maybe I could also make it a little bit more, a little bit stronger. It's not going to look as nice, probably, or maybe with the lower resolution it will look good. I don't know. Let's see. But you start to see that there are some minor, like, you know, imperfections, because even the most polished metal has some sort of like imperfections on the surface, on its own surface. Yeah. Now, this is an extremely cool way to start adding some sort of like realism to basic materials. Now, a material that I very often use and sometimes even abuse is the so-called dirt shader. I'm just gonna create a very quick geometry for you guys. Now, what the dirt shader material does, it recognizes the edges and it basically applies a different color from the main color of the material itself to the edges of the object. These edges could be intersecting edges as well as reversed edges. The material is set up in extremely simple way. We go back to our advanced material. Usually I work 90% of the time with the advanced material. I'll also show you the standard material, which is the material that we have just imported from 3ds Max, which is a lot easier. It has a lot less settings than this one. But this one allows me, you know, to create a real layered material with more than one specular layer. Because if you take things like, say, a wooden floor, okay? Now, a wooden floor, despite what many say, has basically two layers of reflection. One, which is the wood itself, and the other one, which is the coating or the polishing that is applied to the wood itself. You can do this by adding different layers of specularity on a material. In the standard material, it's a little bit more complex because you have to manage it by blending different materials together. But for now, let's focus a little bit on the dirt because this is a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go down to texture, V-Ray, V-Ray power shaders, double click, and in this little slot here, I can go to effects and then use dirt. Now, by default, the dirt has a radius of 100. This is quite a bit, especially if we're working with smaller geometry. So let's lower this to something like 5. And let's just drop this material onto our objects just to see what happens by default. So I'm gonna render. And as you can see, the dirt goes there and recognizes the edges where the geometry intersect with another. Now, bear in mind, I did not apply the dirt to the floor, so you don't see the dirt applied also to the side of the floor itself. Now, one thing that we can do, we can start layering materials inside of these shaders themselves. What do I mean by that? At the moment, we have the option to make the color where the geometry meets black and the color of the geometry simple white. Let's change this. Let's go to the white tab. Let's drop inside the white tab an advanced bitmap. In this advanced bitmap, I could put, say, a concrete. Concrete usually works very good. There we go. Let's use this one. No, I don't want to save it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the black as it is at the moment. So now, for instance, I'm going to have the base material that it's going to be made of concrete, and the place where the edges meet, it's going to be black. So let's take this a little step further. Let's make, instead of the black, a darker version of the same material. So all I have to do is drag and drop this inside the black color. It's going to make a copy. And then inside the bitmap buffer, I can actually change, for instance, the gain to something like 0.7. and have this material a lot darker. Let's just go back to the main settings of this dirt. Let's change the invert normal tab to clicked so that we're gonna see what we get. So now all of a sudden we have the material which has the base of concrete, and the edges, even the ones at the convex edges, a little bit darker. Now, one thing that you probably notice is that these edges are extremely, what do you want to call it? They're regular, okay? Because the distribution of the dirt itself, it's very regular. So one thing that we can do, we can go inside the radius itself and drop a bitmap that it's going to control the distribution of this concrete. Let's go back to our grunge. Let's get one of these super grungy, contrasty elements. Let's re-render so that we can make a quick comparison. There we go. All of a sudden, the effect, it's a little bit more seldom. You can compare it. The distribution, it's not everywhere the same. This adds realism to our material. Now, the cool thing about this system is that we can simply drag and drop the full layered material into, for instance, the specular layer. We can mix it with a little bit of white. We can change the IOR. We can change the reflection glossiness as well. We can change the reflectance at 90 degrees. We can have complete control on how the reflection is going to work. And this is going to behave in a purely physical way because we have used a system that it's that simply works. There you go. So you get your reflections, you get your dirt effect. We could actually use the same. Actually, we could use just this shader, copy shader, into the bump, past shader, to add a little bit of structure. I'm gonna maximize this a little bit so that you can see it better. It's taking a little bit of time. There you go. So now we have a little bit of structure. One thing that we could do to improve the quality of this bump, it's basically to go to the color correction, switch it on, desaturate the material, put it to -1, go back to our bitmap buffer, return the gain to 1, maybe turn down the gamma to something like 0.8, the exposure to something like 1, and create a little bit more contrast, so that now you probably see it, the bitmap, the preview will update. Actually, we can simply render it so that you have an idea of what we're looking at. There we go. So now we have a structure, we have a reflection, and we have this dirt effect. And this is basically a system that once you learn, literally once, you are going to be able to use it over and over with every single project. The thing that you could do, you could simulate, for instance, wear off edges just by switching the two materials around. So say copy shader, I'm going to drop this here, and then I'm gonna say past shader. I'm gonna deactivate the specular layer for now because actually there is no need. We can simply replace it. There we go. Re-render, and now you're gonna have the inverted effect. So the edges are going to look a lot more worn off. That's beautiful, brilliant. And as you can see, it's super intuitive, it's super simple to implement. Great. So now one thing that I want to show you is the new V-Ray frame buffer. There we go. So where is our picture? Great. So now this is a very simple scene that I've created out of boxes, normal boxes. There is a camera that is very close to one of these boxes. And here I'm going to show you how the depth of field of the camera works, which is basically just a click on the sampling, asking for the depth of field, DOF, to be on, and as well as a subdivision level, which means the quality. How simple it is to render and create depth of field with V-Ray for C4D. And bear in mind, super fast, because this kind of effect used to take a long time with the previous version of V-Ray. At the moment, it's extremely fast. And the quality is just hyper realistic. As you can see, this bokeh effect, it's also switched on in the camera settings. Our focus point is around here. Now, one thing that you are going to see the moment I stop the rendering is a bloom coming out from the lens effects, which are now included in V-Ray for C4D. So if I now click on stop, takes a second, or maybe I didn't switch them on. Let's try and have a look. Yes, they're there. I don't know if they are visible through the stream because they're very little. Barbara, can you tell me?
Yes, Fabio, I think they are.
Okay,
I am pretty
it's
sure.
very subtle because
Yeah.
otherwise what happens is that you get a an image that it's just too much, and too much never looks realistic. Okay, so this is something that, for instance, very often when our clients ask us how to make a super hyper realistic rendering, the tendency at the moment is to create a lot of disturbance in the viewport to simulate realism, but actually what photographers do, it's the opposite. They take a picture in the real life and they try to clean it as much as possible to make it look very idyllic. And the same thing should be done by rendering artists. There should be a way in between. Otherwise, you end up having to overcompensate with special effects. And at the end, a lot of renderings, they look like wedding cakes because they have too much of everything all the time. Okay? Like, for instance, this is an image that I think we saw in a catalog of some server products. Of course, it was a render. We knew that it was a render, but at the same time, it was just so perfect that we didn't know if it was a render. So we decided to reproduce it ourselves, and we actually got to the very close quality of the image that we saw in the first place. Now, these effects are actually, you can reach them if in your V-Ray you switch to the expert mode. The expert mode is this little button here. You have the possibility of working with default, advanced, and expert mode. If you go in expert mode, you have an effects tab. You go to lens effects, make it user interactive, use hardware acceleration. For instance, in this case, I didn't use it. This means that it will use the GPU to create these effects. And as you can see, I've rendered this in front of you real time. There are no HDRI lights, no sunlight, just a square light, to let you understand that the quality of the lights that we have, standard lights, it's already extremely high. How are we doing time-wise? 55, okay.
Yeah.
Let me just take a look. Are there already any questions?
Not yet, Fabio. So I'm prompting everybody who wants to speak up to type in the question box. And
Okay, let's do it this way. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there are questions, and of course, it would be impossible to explain everything which is new about V-Ray for C4D, because I've collected all my thoughts and all my files and the stuff that I've done in this past year. On the V-Ray page, you'll find all the stuff that I've prepared. You can go through all the videos and see what's new in this version. What I've shown you, it's basically the cutting edge of 3.5, like the new adaptive lighting, but all this stuff you can also find on our website. And of course, if people want to learn more, they can always get in touch and we can try to see if we can help them.
That's great, Fabio. Yeah, please don't be shy. Contact Fabio and go to the website and dig in.
So there are no questions. I see that
Yes.
there are 10 people
There's
online.
There's one question.
Yes.
Can you use procedural noises in V-Ray instead of grunge maps?
Yes, we have noises. We have implemented noises from 3ds Max. Okay, in this version of V-Ray, you can use the noises from Cinema4D. But to be honest with you, I would force myself to learn how to use the noises from V-Ray for C4D. There is an image that I've created. Let me see if I can find it very quickly. To projects, I think it's there it is. So I'll open it very quickly. I've created a material using the Berkon noise. I don't know if at the moment the Berkon noise, it's integrated in 3.5 because there are some modules which we are still optimizing, but basically it's a normal noise. It's only that it's a Berkon, so it's a procedural one, and you can see it here. We can even open it. It's a type of noise which works fantastic. If I now render this image, you can see it. It's very similar to the old good noise from Cinema4D. I use it sometimes to make, if I'm a little lazy, water, or if I want to make some imperfections on metal, for instance. And as you can see, I'm using it here for this metal because this is this very high temperature cooked metal, like, baked metal. And what happens is that the metal at a microscopic level, a lot of small explosions happen on the surface. So it's very rough. And this Berkon noise works, in my case, better than the noise from Cinema4D. And of course, one thing that I should have mentioned is that if you do still want to use the normal noise, they also get baked on the fly, and you can use them in DR as well as a team render.
Cool. Cool. So this was the only question so far.
I don't believe this.
I do. I wouldn't lie to you, Fabio. Everybody's
No, I know.
Yeah, everybody's shy, or I don't know.
But you can see how fast it is, to render. I mean, this image, it's almost noise-free, and it's 1:30. And I'm doing, of course, other things at the same time. I'm telling you, it's it's a pleasure to work with the new version of V-Ray. It's a lot of things that didn't work before, they are now there, and they work, and they're solid. One thing that I'm very proud of is that it doesn't crash anymore, because with the old version I used to get issues. I'm talking about 1.9. This version never crashes. It's solid. It's implemented, fully in all parts of production. I know I work for V-Ray, but I'm also in love with the product. So,
Well, thank you, Fabio. No, we believe you. Thank you for the demo and for the enthusiasm. That was really, and you share really good tips for everybody.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to now, unfortunately, have to take the screen back, and
okay, no worries.
okay. Sorry to show you my screen instead of a great rendering, but I want to thank you all for joining us today. And also, I want to remind you that if you want to find V-Ray for Cinema4D, you can find it at novedge.com. And, we have the best price up there, and Novedge is the best place to buy design software online. So come visit us, check us out. And for information on specials, new releases, join the Novedge network on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. And I want to remind you that next week we will be presenting a webinar on immersive visualization and virtual reality with Autodesk. To rewatch today's webinar or previous one, come visit our Novedge YouTube channels. We also have a Vimeo channel. Just type in Novedge, and we have webinars for every software taste. Thanks again, Fabio. Your enthusiasm is contagious. And thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the day or night. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.